3. First of all, thank yourself for holding on to this journey until now. This week, we're going to talk about the core components of relationships that make them fulfilling. In week 1, we discussed the body-mind-soul paradigm and how they want different things. While it might be easy to identify what the body and the mind want, people often struggle to understand what their soul wants. So you might ask, are these going to be different for a man and a woman? Well, my answer is no. Because men and women, while their bodies are given different anatomies and their minds are given different conditioning, I believe at the core, the souls want the same thing regardless of the gender. But you might ask, men and women, they both operate differently. Well, that is true, but that refers to the general condition of the mind. But we are talking about the soul. So for example, if you look at the definition of a man and a woman and how they operate, like for example, 1,000 years ago and even 5,000 years ago, and you compare that to today, it could be totally different. But in this course, we're not talking about the body or the mind, but rather we're talking about the soul. So regardless if you're a man or a woman, no matter how much you meet the needs of the body and the mind, if your soul's needs are unmet, you are eventually going to feel disconnected and unfulfilled. So a relationship will only nurture your soul when you yourself can first identify and acknowledge what your soul wants and commit to living by it. Like I mentioned before, oftentimes it gets difficult for people to look deep into themselves because there is so much going on in the world that takes away their attention, and especially with social media making it even worse. But if you do, you will realize that regardless of size, shape, color, race, religion, nationality and whatnot, all our souls desire the same thing. So end of the day, you will always feel inadequate if you don't meet your soul's needs. So let's start off with the first component, which is openness. So what is openness? Well, it is nothing but a degree of measure of how open you are and how welcoming you are to a new thought, a new opinion, a new action, or a new thing. So in the context of relationships, openness is about how open you can be to the idea without any judgment that the other person can have a complete different understanding of the world, that they have a complete different way of processing emotions, and they have their own thoughts and pursuits. So our brain constantly looks for similarity or sameness, but it is best to maintain a perception that your partner is not just another living being, but they're a whole world in themselves. So let me start off with the question, how open or rigid are you? Well, some people run away at the sight of seeing differences, and some take too much without knowing that they're taking too much. So what is too much here in this context? Any differences that you accept and bringing changes to you that do not serve your authenticity is what can be defined as being too much. So having a healthy degree of openness will open the avenue for the other person to open up to you without holding back. And yes, there are going to be awkward moments obviously, but only then can you actually understand if this is something that really resonates with you. So let's talk about a few scenarios at a very high level. So in the first scenario, let's say both the people in a relationship are open. Well, this is the most ideal scenario and this will be a very healthy relationship. And in the second scenario, let's say one person is open and the other person is closed. So now this becomes a relationship of work until either the person that's closed opens up or the person that's already open, gives up trying to open the other person up. And the third scenario is a setting where both people are closed. So ideally, this relationship, I don't think people can really open up to each other. So the prospects for something like this are not really bright. And when people open up, there could be all kinds of things that show up. As humans, all people have a shadow side, which are all about repressed emotions that they usually wouldn't want to share with others or have been self-rejecting themselves. And obviously this will differ from person to person. Well, it is not necessary that everyone is aware of this in themselves, but I believe exploring such paths brings people further together. And when you're open to receiving, you will also be able to see their imperfections and also welcome them to talk about their insecurities. And so this is what our second component of fulfilled relationship is going to be. And we will be discussing that tomorrow.
Your exercise for today. How open are you to the idea that your partner could have different perspectives and different ways of processing things and emotions. Do you find it difficult to being open to new things? Can you identify the root cause? Can you identify what your shadow side is? These are usually the things that you have been self-rejecting.